Hey there. Today I would like to talk about the TWSBI Diamond 540 fountain pen, which looks like this. I'll tell you what I like about it, I'll tell you what I don't like about it, and I'll show you a writing sample. Now, this was the first time I ordered something from the writingdesk.co.uk, and I have to say my experiences were extremely pleasant. The ordering process was very simple, and the delivery was fast and very efficient. So, I'll definitely order from that shop again in the future. Now let's just go through the pen. First of all, you have to admire this box. This is one of the nicest presentation boxes I have seen in a long time. You can open it. The pen is kept in place, actually. I'm not sure how well. Yes, actually fairly well. And you can take off these little spacers, I would call them. And then you have your pen. Now, of course, I've already inked it up. It doesn't come inked up, but it's. I think this is a very nice demonstrator. But before we go to the pen, there's something more. This plastic box actually came in a sort of cardboard box, but that was I kind of tore it and I just threw it away. You get instructions on how to disassemble the pen, which is very useful if you want to do maintenance, and by maintenance I also mean just cleaning it. It can be a bit of a bother to really clean these piston fillers, because you have to suck up ink and then push it out again, suck it up again. But if you can completely open it up, that really facilitates the cleaning process. Now, this little thing in the plastic box you can actually open up as well, and then in there you will find a small bottle of silicone grease, which I think is really cool, and a wrench to assist you in disassembling your pen. Isn't that cool? I think that's amazingly cool. The pen. This is a nicely sized pen. I have large hands, but as you can see, this is a considerable pen. Piston filler, demonstrator, that's all pretty cool. TWSBI is a Taiwanese company. And is that relevant? Yes, actually it is, because usually with Asian pens, the nib you will get is a bit finer than you would get in a Western pen. So if you order an Asian pen with a fine nib, then often you get something we would call extra fine. A medium nib then turns into a fine nib, and a broad nib, as on this pen, turns into what we would often call a medium nib. So I'm very happy I got the broad nib, otherwise the line would have been too fine to my liking. Okay, having said that, let's go through the pen. TWSBI is a weird name, TWSBI. It stands for something like three great things or something like that, and then they reverse the letters. It's a complicated story. I'm not gonna recount that. Check out the TWSBI site if you're really interested. The only reason I mention it is that these three, it's like a cultural thing. The three great things. What was it again? Well, in any case, this is kind of put into the logo, so I'm not sure how well you can see that, but at the end cap of the cap there is this nice red inlaid thing, which I think looks fairly cool. The TWSBI logo, excuse me. So, we have the cap. The cap has a broad chrome-like ring, which says TWSBI, and it says Diamond 540, Taiwan. So that's a nice touch. It has a clip, which I think is nice, smooth, nicely rounded. Can be moved well, tight enough to keep the pen in place and yet loose enough to operate it smoothly. The barrel, of course, it's a demonstrator, so it is see-through. There are no markings on the barrel, and this is the knob you twist to move the piston in there up and down to suck up ink. Okay. The barrel has nice, it's a faceted pen. You can see that. There's some flat parts on there, which makes it very nice to hold. I think it's a very nice design. It's all plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. In fact, for a plastic pen, I think it's fairly heavy. So that's nice. It makes it feel decent and well constructed. Okay, let's have a look at the nib. This is a screw-off cap. which I always like, because pull-off caps you can just accidentally pull off, or you try to take the pen from your shirt pocket, you just have the cap in your hand. It cannot happen with this pen because it has nice threads, so the screw-on cap. The nib, as I said, it's broad, but you may be able to see that this doesn't look particularly broad. What I have here is a Schaefer, broad. Now you see the difference on the Schaefer? That's really broad. And if you look at the the rounded part of the tines on the TWSBI, you may see it's quite a bit finer than the Schaefer is, and it really does give a nice line, but I would call that medium and not broad. So that's just an Asian pen thing. Nothing wrong with that. It's just something you need to take into account when you're ordering the nib that should be the right size for you. The nib itself has, again, this TWSBI logo that's also on the cap. It says TWSBI and it says B for broad. Has a breather hole. I think this is not the most spectacular nib you'll ever find. It looks fairly standard with the shoulders and the tines. It's not particularly large. It's just a fairly standard nib, but it's smooth. I can tell you that this is a smooth writer. Okay, and you see this little rubber O-ring, which is undoubtedly inserted to make sure the pen doesn't leak, which I think is a nice touch. The grip section, tapered, then gets broader again. All smooth, no texture there, and yet it's pleasant to hold. What I was surprised by was the fact that for an Asian pen, this one is fairly large. If I hold it like this, and I have large hands, you see the pen actually protrudes here. So it's a fairly big pen. And if you post it, the cap will not slide on that far. That's it. So if I post it and I write, then I have this huge mammoth pen. To me, that's a bit too much, and I think it gets a little too heavy near the end, and it tends to sag a little. So when I write with this pen, I write unposted. So just a bit of trivia about the pen. Feed is fine, keeps up well with the writing, smooth writer, and of course because it holds, you can fill it up, all of this bit of the barrel with ink. It holds a lot of ink, has a large capacity, which I really, really like. If you have to do a lot of writing, this type of piston filler is really useful. It holds a lot more than a cartridge, and it also holds a lot more than a converter. So if you're looking for large ink capacity, consider getting a piston filler. So that's it about the pen. I really like the design. It looks high-tech with the plastic and chrome combination. I think that's very nice. Although it is plastic, it doesn't feel cheap. It's nice to the touch. It's a smooth writer, so what more could you wish for? When it comes to downsides, I haven't really found any. Except that the posting thing doesn't really seem to work. That's a bit off, but whatever, then you write unposted. Yeah, I don't think that should be a big issue. Holds a decent amount of ink, pleasant writer, so get one now. The best thing to do now is to show you how it writes, I think, to give you an idea, and that's what we'll do next, and that's it. So, I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, writing with the TWSBI Diamond 540. I just posted the pen, but actually I always use this not posted. So here we have it, the TWSBI Diamond 540 with a broad nib. Now, is this a broad nib? If you've seen some of my other vids, then I think this is a broad nib, and you can see the big difference here. But then again, this is a European pen, and this is an Asian pen, and generally speaking, what is medium on an Asian pen is often what we would call fine, and what is broad on an Asian pen is probably what we would call medium in some other pens. That's not an issue, it's just something that you need to take into account if you're going to buy a pen. And considering this is Asian, I wasn't sure because I had no experience with the brand, but I'm happy I got the broad nib, otherwise it would probably have been too fine to my tastes. The ink here, for those of you interested, is Arabian Rose. a nice, somewhat shaded, actually fairly shaded pinkish color, which I kind of like. Okay, writing with the pen. Writing is smooth. I feel very little resistance on the paper. The pen is also comfortable to hold. The grip is really nice. Nicely shaped, I really like that. What about the flexing? Well, it is a steel nib. But as you can see, it's actually possible to attain quite some line variation. So it does flex a little bit. You don't want to spring it, don't apply too much pressure. But you should be able to get some line variation in there. So that's very nice. You can also write quickly with it. And the pen won't skip, as you can see. So it has a good feed, it works very well. It lays down a decent amount of ink and a very consistent flow, as you can see. There's very little white in there. It's a really nice and consistent line. You can also see in the reflections that this is a wet pen. It's really, wet. And I love it. It's smooth. It's fun to use. It's a demonstrator, which is just funny because you can see the ink in there. So this is a nice pen. I can recommend this one. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.